This is Overwatch. This is Winston. This is Temple of Anubis. And this is a tutorial for Winston on Temple of Anubis. So let's get started right away. The most common spot for Winston on defense point A is this spot right here. This can be seen as the default spot and is the most common spot that you will probably see and hear in many tutorials. This spot allows Winston to simply jump to the high ground over here, by walking a little bit to the right, then jumping towards this side of the platform. You almost only want to be here after you jumped on a sniper, who just grappled over here or used coach gun over here to come here. That is the only time you want to jump on this platform essentially. Another thing to keep in mind is to walk on this side of the platform, and at all times not this side. It's pretty easy to understand. When you're here, the enemy team can easily shoot you from the low ground, and when you're here, they cannot. Also, when you're over here, your friendly teammates might have an easier time supporting and healing you. But be careful not to walk in this corner, because you might have a hard time getting healed, or your healers might have to be under more pressure to heal you, which is something you want to avoid. Also, if you jumped on a sniper, she or he will usually drop down towards the low ground, and if you use bubble, you cannot chase that. If you use bubble here, you cannot chase them towards the low ground. Meaning, if they are not pocketed and if you can safely take only a tiny bit of damage as they're almost instantly dropping down, you want to save your bubble. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are able to drop on the low ground once you contested the sniper, you usually want to be doing that from this side. You don't want to drop from this side over here, as that gives exposure to the entire team. That's something you want to avoid. You also want to use your bubble close to this rock over here, because if you use it like this, you can contest the enemy team from the edge of your bubble with ease, and contest people will walk in this room with ease on the edge of your bubble, which makes you the least likely to get hit. If you're on the edge of your bubble, you're the least likely to get hit. And those are all the things you need to know about staying here on the high ground. One last thing I forgot to mention, which is very important, is that you need to be careful with how you jump when you're over here, because the invisible ceiling is extremely close now. Look. You can easily bump your head against the invisible ceiling when you're over here. Keep that in mind. And of course, holding the front line over here is really bad. Why is it bad? Well, you're not a frontline tank as Winston, which is why you're just gonna be in a disadvantage. You're gonna have to use your bubble, then jump away. When that happens, they can easily have the high ground over here completely uncontested. Unless your team is on these two high grounds over here, it's terrible. What is also even more terrible is if you're doing this when there is a sniper over here on the high ground coming back from spawn, or just waiting and camping for the right moment. If you have to jump away because you frontlined over there, if you frontlined over here, used your bubble, had to jump away, you have nothing to contest that Widow or that Ashe or that Hanzo for seconds and seconds and seconds. You can't do anything about them, and they might even kill you. One extremely difficult spot for Winston to reach on this map, which is extremely unpredictable and can be highly effective if the enemy do decide to come over here. There is one spot where you can drop on them as Winston, and that is over there. It is extremely difficult though, which means I am gonna enable my UI for a minute just to try to figure it out. Last time I tried, I had my cursor about over here and just simply aimed my cursor towards the edge, the little point of the little half circle. Now this may take a few tries, so I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Okay, that went slightly quicker than I thought. I got it on a second attempt. So anyway, when you are over here, this is a great spot as people usually don't see it coming. You also appear to, when you are trying to move, to be a little bit stuck, but trust me, you can move either, you can drop either way from there or over there. You can move through this small hole. It is completely possible. Moving over there is not as possible and I would not recommend doing that. But one great thing about staying here as Winston is that people usually don't expect. Once they're all here grouped up and ready to push through this choke, you better hope that your second tank is able to hold the front line, or your team is able to hold the front line easily. Because then you are able, once the enemy wasted some cooldowns or some resources or just made some dumb decisions, you can simply drop down on them, use your bubble and very quickly kite them by jumping over here and just hide here. You can also even reach that from there. As if I will show you, you can simply, if you want to, even jump over here and then come back over here, ready to attack them from this side, which is also very handy. This only is recommended though if you are quite certain the enemy team decides to go the right side. Otherwise it's just not as good as the other two spots, who are way more consistent, but also a little bit more predictable. It is also recommended if you stay here that you have some kind of spam team, or you have a tank that can easily hold the front line over here, a frontline tank, like Reinhardt, maybe Sigma, maybe Orisa, or maybe even Zarya. Those are the tanks that can either hold the front line or support you while holding the front line. They can also press W with you, or in this case move the joystick forward with you to go in with you. Consider you want to do a scummy strat like hiding over here, or even better yet, hiding over here while trying to spawn camp. Would that be a viable and good thing to do? I would say no, not really. The only heroes you can effectively do this are with our Widowmaker and Zenyatta. If they expect it, they're gonna probably swap. And even worse, you rely on the enemy team to be over there, just fighting a 5v5 and being in a disadvantage. It is not as recommended. You can also try to, of course, hold here at the start of the game. Highly unexpected, of course, no one is gonna expect you to be behind. Except if some of the enemies spot you and start shooting you before you get to execute your 500 IQ strat, you are immediately forced to jump over here. If they can chase you, or if they can shoot you, you are dead. Or are forced to use your bubble and get helped and built out. It's not great. I would not recommend doing it. Moving on to point B. Now how do you attack point A? Well, one way of attacking point A is simply jumping on the platform where the whole team is. This does require teamwork from your team, and it does require to be able to get supported, to have a dive team, or just to have heroes that can go with you. Not recommended. Another thing you can do is help your sniper who might jump here on the high ground and wants to snipe. You can just bubble them and wait for them to maybe get a kill or two. If that is not gonna work, you can simply try to help your team move towards this choke and move left side over here, placing your bubble in the choke, helping them go left side. You can then decide a few things. You can either go over here and jump on the enemy team like this, flanking them essentially, or taking the off angle as your team is going through there. You can also just decide to, once you have moved your team towards this choke, simply camp and wait here for maybe, because maybe a enemy will go here and flank. Maybe an enemy Junkrat, enemy Roadhog. And you can actually punish them if you camp here and prevent them from killing your team, maybe, perhaps. You can also just camp here, wait for your bubble to come back, and then just jump on them as your team is moving and trying to take the high ground over there. One last thing you can do is simply wait here with your team, wait for your jump, then you go towards that small hole over there and flank, and then you go behind the enemy team, and then you perhaps can take the Widow, who might be over here, and surprise them. You do want to be careful though, because they usually will just grapple towards that high ground and you are forced to use your bubble then. You can still jump onto them if they don't have support, and you can grab a health pack over here if that's necessary. And that is pretty much point A. The only other thing you can essentially do as Winston is just camp over here and wait for your team to actually push all the way over there. But you can still, even then, you can still just help your team get through the choke with your bubble and take a health pack over there or over there. You can always do something as Winston then. But if you do want to camp here, you can also simply just jump over here, hide behind these walls, and actually try to contest the point. Then, once they're dropping onto you, you can take one high ground or this high ground over there. This is not recommended if there's an Ana over there or a sniper over there, because they will expect you and they will be ready to shoot you or grapple away. Other than that, if you do decide to go this very rushy YOLO style, you do want to hope that this team, whatever the enemy team has, that they are not able to drop onto you without dying very quickly. Because if they're easily able to just drop off the high ground and damage you, you are completely dead. So this is not recommended, only in the lower ranks I would say. And that is how you attack point A. For defending point B, there are 3 spots for Winston. This is the default spot that will show up in every single Winston tutorial you will look up. And it's pretty good because simply the front line can walk in, the enemy tanks and DPS can walk in, and once you have counted 3 or 4 people, you will drop down and zap the backline. It's fairly simple. But another spot you need to remember is this spot. Why is this spot good? Because if they have a sniper, they might not just be over there to shoot them, they might also be over here, which this spot allows you to also freely and easily contest. If you were over here on this high ground and you saw a sniper over there, you would literally have to drop down like this and then jump on them, which is a lot more inconvenient for you. And it also allows you to maybe get stunned, maybe get pooped, maybe get accidentally screwed over. Now imagine suddenly a Reaper is showing up or a D.Va is showing up and you need to quickly escape. One way of escaping quickly is by moving through all these pillars towards that high ground over there. This, however, is quite difficult and not recommended. What I do recommend though is essentially moving between these 2 pillars towards that high ground. It's just slightly, in my experience, it's just slightly, ever so slightly more consistent. Even though I screwed it up, I do recommend you practice both jumps and just get good with them. I do recommend jumping like this though. Now the last spot, of course, is this spot over here, the God spot, the ultimate Winston spot. This allows you to easily see where the enemy is going. It allows you to drop on the enemy backline fairly simply by doing this. It's highly unexpected. If you are in danger, you jump back to this high ground over here. Now of course you may get countered by heroes like Reaper and Roadhog and D.Va and Doomfist. Those heroes are generally really good at countering you. Also heroes like Brigitte and Baptiste, or just a comp that is really good at staying together and rushing your team. You cannot do a lot as Winston then. But we both know you are not gonna swap off Winston. No, we will never swap off Winston. Wait, where were we? Oh yeah. Well, if you're defending of course, and the enemy decides to go over here in this small room, where people cannot easily get poked down from distant snipers or long range enemies, or even spammers, and where close range excels. What do you do as Winston? Well, allow me to show. Imagine you're the enemy frontlining attacking tank. You have decided to walk towards the point and contest, to protect your team with your shield and with your abilities, and leave your backline over here to do whatever they want. Now if, of course, you are Winston, it would be a shame if you just hit over here where no one can shoot you. Then once the enemy tanks are over there, moving forward, you would suddenly jump in and show up and attack the enemy backline. That would be such an inconvenience, now wouldn't it? It would be even more inconvenient if you would just hide here as the enemy team walks in that small room, deciding to contest the point, and once they are contesting the point, you would just simply walk behind them and contest them from in the backline using your bubble and stuff. And once they are trying to attack you and trying to kill, you can simply jump towards this platform or even hide behind these rocks, and they can hardly do damage to you. That would be so incredibly annoying now, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Anyway, let's move on towards attacking as Winston. Now if you're attacking point E, there's not a lot to it. You usually want to avoid going through this side. You want to come back from spawn and walk right side. Be a bit sneaky, because people will usually poke you out. Snipers will usually be over there. Just jump onto them and hope they don't get a kill. It's just what it is. It's really difficult for Winston to be effective at attacking here. It can be really difficult. You almost always want to go right side, because main is just suicide. You're just gonna get shut down. If you go left, it's suicide. You're in a small room with a small roof. Repeat after me. In a small room, it will be your doom. You will bump your head and you will be dead. One more time. Be in a small room, that is your doom. You will bump your head and you will be dead. And that was the complete tutorial on how to play Winston on Temple of Anubis. I hope you enjoyed the video. One quick after note though. When I made this video, it turned out to take a lot longer than I expected to make, and it turned out to be a lot more difficult. So in the future, I'll make a bit more time for my videos, and I will try to upload a bit more consistent and more often. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great 2021. Bye!